Today we're going to be presenting a walking tour of Nisky and Schenectady by Gracie, Rohde, and Enana Jacob. So first we have the map of the tour, which is an overview of all the locations that we're going to be going through. It starts in Central Park and ends in the Stanford Mansion and travels throughout both Schenectady and Niskuna.
The first stop is Central Park, which is the home of the Schenectady Rose Garden Iroquois Lake. It was named after New York City's Central Park, and the city of Schenectady bought it in 1913, which is an example of urban planning. It also contains the city of Schenectady's highest elevation point. So the next stop is Union Street, and growth first developed from Union Street during the early 1700s, which is an example of colonial central business districts. Later, the Schenectady Locomotive Works in 1848 bolstered growth along this street, and then the construction of the Erie Canal led to growth here as well in the 1860s. Finally, General Electric's move to Schenectady in 1886 caused a later wave of growth along Union Street. The third stop is Union College. The New York State Regents Board chartered Union in 1795, making it the second college in New York State following Columbia. It was the first liberal arts college to include engineering in its courses in 1845. This was part of the country's shift to Stage 3 in the takeoff stage of the economic growth model. It is also the first non-denominational higher education institution, and the most famous building on campus is the Knott Memorial, also called the Memorial Chapel, pictured above. The fourth stop is Tara Kitchen, which is a Moroccan restaurant in downtown Schenectady. Tara Kitchen has been featured on multiple Food Network shows, including Beat Bobby Flay and Guy Fieri's Grocery Games. It additionally sells jarred sauces in local grocery stores and online. It is considered the most notable restaurant in the Nisky Schenectady area. It is an example of contagious diffusion because the head chef and founder drew inspiration from a trip to Morocco. The fifth stop is Schenectady City Hall, which was constructed between 1931 and 1933. Its architectural style is Revivalist Federal style, which was first most popular from 1780 to 1830. There's been a recent addition of Black Lives Matter art outside the building, which is an example of pop culture, as Black Lives Matter is an internet-driven campaign joining folk culture. It houses city officials in Schenectady's Congressional District's office, which is New York 21. The sixth stop is Proctor's Theater, which was built in 1925 to 26, originally as a vaudeville theater. Its decorative center stage features decorative moldings, gold accents, red carpeting, and ceiling murals. When vaudeville died out with the introduction of talking movies, which was a change in pop culture, Proctor's became a movie theater. In 1930, General Electric first publicly demonstrated their new television here. Proctor's fell into disuse in the 1950s and 60s before a community-driven reinvestment and rebirth, eventually leading to it landing a place on the National Register of Historical Places, and plays being held in-house again. Our seventh stop is the Stockade Historical District. It is in northwest Schenectady near the Mohawk River. It is Schenectady's oldest neighborhood and the country's oldest residential neighborhood. It has many pre-Revolutionary War homes. Its settling began in the 1660s by Dutch fur trappers. This was a switch from a traditional central business district to a colonial central business district. It is also the original location of Union College.
The eighth stop is the Schenectady Massacre Plaque, which is memorializing the Schenectady Massacre that occurred in February of 1690. It occurred during the Beaver Wars when French Canadians wanted to intimidate the Iroquois to leave the side of the English by capturing Schenectady. English living in the area came under colonialism, and the Beaver Wars were fought over access to furs in the New England area, which was part of the primary sector of economy. Warriors went to each house and killed people before they could arm themselves, and most houses were destroyed and burned. In around 2 hours, about 60 people were killed and 27 prisoners were taken. The next stop is the Niskuna Co-op. The Schenectady Co-op was founded first in 1937 on State Street, and the Niskuna Co-op was added in 1943, founded during World War II due to gas rationing. The Niskuna Co-op moved to its current location in Knott Street in 1947, and the building was last remodeled in 2012. It is a successful non-big box retail store for Niskuna residents. The next stop is the Mohawk Trail, which is part of the larger Great Trail, which is a network of paths originally created by Iroquoian and Algonquin-speaking Native Americans. The Greater Mohawk Trail was traveled by Metacomet during the King's Philip War, and Benedict Arnold, before becoming a notorious Revolutionary War traitor, traveled the trail to recruit soldiers to fight the English. The 11th stop is GE Global Research Building in Niskuna. Thomas Edison selected Schenectady as the original headquarters of General Electric, but in 1955 the lab moved to Niskuna. The new location gave direct access to the Mohawk River for water use as well as underwater experimentation. The building is currently working towards progress in green energy and is one of the largest employers in the Niskuna-Schenectady area. As it is a research building, it's part of the quaternary sector of economy. The next spot is Lock 7, also called Erie Canal Lock E7. It's part of the Canalway Trail, which is 300 miles of bike trails across New York State. Lock 7 is along the Erie Canal route, which runs from Buffalo all the way to Albany, and the surrounding locks, which are E6 and E8, are in Waterford and Glenville respectively, and are about 10 and 5 miles from Lock 7. Stop 13 is the Niskuna Reformed Church, which is a Dutch Reformed church that was first constructed in 1852. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1979, and it's built in the Greek Revival style with a central tower as well as a hexagonal belfry at the top. It has an adjacent cemetery that contains burials from the late 18th century, and it practices a universal religion, which is Christianity. The 14th spot is the Niskuna Grange, which was the very first Rosendale school. Niskuna children attended it from 1812 to the early 1900s, and it was one of the 4 common schools for Niskuna residents to attend. It later became a Grange Hall after it stopped being used as a school, and restoration efforts have unfortunately been long delayed due to the high cost of the restoration as well as funding issues. Our final stop is the Stanford Mansion, which was built in 1815. It was initially a Schuyler mansion, but was purchased by Stanford in 1859. It's named for Josiah Stanford, the father of the state senator Charles Stanford, and the California governor Leland Stanford, who was the founder of Stanford University. Stanford Mansion is currently a Berkshire bank after previously being a nursing home. Gracie and I both interviewed some residents of Niskuna to ask them about their opinions on a walking tour and what they would include in a walking tour, as well as what they would change about the area that they live in or maybe add to it. The first interview is from Jad Jacob, a Niskuna resident, who said that it would be interesting for people from Niskuna to visit and learn about Schenectady sites and vice versa. He also said that if he could add something to the Niskuna-Schenectady area, it would be a small museum or exhibit to honor Native American heritage of the area. The second interview comes from Joseph Jacob, another Niskuna resident, who says that the history of Niskuna and Schenectady are intertwined with the history of the Capital District. He says it would be interesting to learn about the history of both through a walking tour. He said that if he were to add something to the Schenectady area, it would be an arena for exhibitions, concerts, etc. from all around. He thinks that it would add new things to the city of Schenectady.
I interviewed 2 other community residents. Cliff Rohde said that a walking tour of Niskuna should include some statue to remember Native Americans, and he also said that he is self-proclaimedly ignorant of Niskuna's cultural landscape. Noah Rohde said that Niskuna's cultural landscape is its perceived excellence, and that its education system could be improved by fostering a worldview that extends beyond the bounds of Balltown Road, Route 7, and the Mohawk River, and that we should have cultural exchange with other school districts like Schenectady, Albany, Troy, Queensbury, and Delmar, and that we should also have more hikes in nature. He finally said that a walking tour along with required civics classes would dramatically increase community engagement. We also researched some similar successful tours. Perhaps the most famous one is the Boston Freedom Trail. Boston citizens helped create the Boston Freedom Trail in the 1950s out of a need to streamline sightseeing in the city. The trail is a 2.5-mile course that takes pedestrians through 16 locations relevant to American history. It was later marked as a national park, and some 4 million tourists visit it every year. It is an example of a very successful walking tour. Two more local ones are in Saratoga and Cooperstown. There are many guided walking tours covering Saratoga City's different neighborhoods, including the Beekman Art District and Broadway. Saratoga's tours have promoted awareness of cultural heritage and have caused an increase in tourism. The last one is Cooperstown. Cooperstown recently began offering walking tours again. They were long dormant. They have promoted awareness of Otsego County heritage and culture.